who's in our Public Relations Department at Boston Water and Sewer as well. For those of you who were here a couple years ago, we had come in and presented a project to come in and clean and inspect by television all of our existing sewers and drains in the North End. That project was successfully completed, and as part of this project, we then took all those videotapes, and with the Director of Design and his staff, they then proposed improvements for the North End. So any street that's listed on this handout, when we did the inspections, it was determined that there were deficiencies in that section. I'm going to just quickly go through this presentation because we're going to be coming back probably in either next month or the following month to go into detail about the first project. The contract was just awarded in a recent commission meeting to D'Alessandro Corp. They were the contractor that was here, I believe 2 years ago, redoing Salem Street. That was a full dig replacement of a sewer system that was failing, so that was more of an emergency project. But I think we all cooperatively worked together. We addressed concerns as they came up. I thought that was pretty successful on a very difficult street. Leaning into that, unfortunately on the first project, there are two sections on Hanover Street, one up by Commercial and the other one down by Cross Street, that are in very poor condition. We cannot do a typical lining process. When I come back next month or in September, depending on what the schedule provides for us, I'll give you a very good overview of what the different methods actually have as impacts. But when the pipe inspection is done, we actually see the inside of the pipe and its condition. And on this chart, you'll notice that we've given you a lot of technical information, but the CS means combined sewer. So when it rains like it did just shortly ago, all your sanitary flow and your storm drainage in the street all go into one pipe. Because the streets in the North End are so congested, the majority of the system over here is combined. There are a few that say SS. That means that's just for your sanitary flow. And SD is for storm drain. So on a few of the streets, we've actually have two separate systems that allow the flow to get either to the harbor or to Deer Island. So when we did this inspection, we're looking for several things. One, most of our pipes are round. However, in the North End, you never know what you're going to find. We actually have some slate pipe with a wood roof. That one's in very poor shape. We have other ones that were made of wood, brick, and slate. So when they were very creative in the early years when they were hand digging our streets to put all these new pipes in, they used the materials that were most available at the time. So on those streets, we can't do some of our standard technologies, which is usually used either on round pipe or an egg-shaped pipe. So we have those different pipes. And you'll know that the egg-shaped ones are the ones that have the weird dimensions, like a 12 by 16, 15 by 15. So those, if they're still in that existing condition, where they're still round or in the shape of an egg, we can then put a liner through them. So on this map, the ones in green with the dash here, those we can come in. It's a pretty quick process. We come in, we re-clean the pipe just to make sure that all of the sediment that has redeposited in the last couple of years gets removed. And then we insert a new pipe, like a sock. You know, you pull your sock on in the morning. Well, we can pull a sock into the sewer system. It usually takes about anywhere from 6 hours to 24 hours. We reopen the services, we're done, and we're off the street. So that's this process that we look forward to do on as many streets as possible. However, for each phase we're doing on the project, we've done it two ways. One, the most critical get done first, and the other thing that drives our projects is what the Public Works Department is doing. Public Works Department was interested in resurfacing Salem Street. So we worked cooperatively with them, made Salem Street a priority. One, because of the pipe condition, but two, because the city had promised for so many years to pave that street that we got in. So some of these streets are driven by the Boston Public Works paving program. So on each of these phases, for the first phase is the first sheet and the back of the second sheet. So if you live on any of these streets, we do a notice process. We'll be working with you as the work proceeds. We'll talk about detours. We'll talk about parking, all those things in great detail when we come back for this first project. Once we complete the first phase, which we anticipate probably starts sometime in the end of September, but again, we're very flexible. We haven't set the schedule with the contractor yet. We can work around people's holidays and special events, so we can come back. So when we come to the next meeting, we'll bring a proposed schedule for the first phase. We anticipate that, like we did the last time, we'll work through the winter, because that's not when people are outside wanting to enjoy the area and the ocean and the walkways and the good Italian food, which I enjoy quite frequently. And so we'll work with you if you have a specific preference on when your street gets done. Most of the work will be done during the day, because obviously the North End is full of residences. We only come out at night in case of an emergency. Some of the bigger lining projects, those will go more than 12 hours, but we can't stop the process once we start it. Because of that stock being in there, we have to cook it. We basically cook it, it hardens, and it becomes a nice new solid pipe inside the existing pipe. So we'll work with the residents on the street, what time is the best. There is a noisy part of the application that happens in the beginning. So once we get the liner installed and it's cooking, it's got a big oven outside that it cooks with, we then shut that machine off, and then the rest of it, we can do in the middle of the night, because they're just waiting for it to cook with hot water inside, and it's not making any noise. And then we just come back and then we reopen your service. So that's the majority of the project. As you'll see on the back of the second page, this is all of our lining work. You can kind of ignore the manhole numbers. That's more for the people of the commission. But at least it gives you the street limits, so you'll see if you're going to be in that work zone. Because some of the streets are more difficult, we then decided, instead of trying to put all of the job out at once, which would have delayed it going out, we're going to do 3 phases, or we may merge phase 2 with phase 3, because there isn't as much work. But most of phase 2 is a lot of relay. So these 6 or 7 streets on phase 2 are mostly relays. And then anything that was like adjoining another street where we're going to be working on, and even if it was lining, we're going to put on that job. So we don't anticipate starting phase 2 until the end of maybe next year and into 2015. Oh, it is next year, sorry. And then the last phase, again, and this was mostly driven by the public's work schedule, that they weren't coming to these streets as soon, are these last few streets, and they're on the last page, and as you can see, there's only about 7 streets on that project as well. So this is, again, mostly pipe replacement. We actually have to take more time in designing these streets, so the contracts actually take longer to put together as well. So the good news is the commission is the only utility authority in the city of Boston that's allowed to do its own permanent paving. So when we finish the work, we actually spend about $5 million a year restoring roadways that we've impacted. That's done by a very good Italian Mario Susi and Sons contractor who has worked in the city for 40, 50 years. So they do a majority of the street paving. And in that, we can control when he comes back to do that restoration work. So you don't have to wait 4 or 5 years waiting for the Public Works to get it scheduled in with their master plan. We also restore all the sidewalks that we impact. When the contractor is working right there on the street, we actually come in and put in temporary mix, and then we'll come back and restore it with brick pavers or the cobblestones or whatever the existing condition is. We put that back to its final restoration. So I think tonight would be good just to get, this is just an overview. We don't have specifics for each street, but we are very sensitive to the rodent problems in the north end. We do have a rodent control program as part of the job. They'll actually come out and bait our system ahead of time. Usually when it's a high intensity area, that baiting program extends to 300 feet beyond our work zone. If there is activity that you haven't seen before in your home, in your neighborhood, the contractor is required to bring out their rodent control expert and help mitigate that. Trash pickup, I know that's another big issue in most of the city. If the contractor is occupying the roadway and it's trash pickup day, we'll actually carry your trash to the trash people, and then if we can't get them down the street. So we do that on a regular basis. D'Alessandro knows that very well. Their guys are really good at putting in the loader and they bring it to the end of the street and they take it and throw it in the truck. So we shouldn't be impacting your trash pickup. Other things that people generally are concerned about is dust and noise. As I mentioned, this project is slated to be done mostly during the day. We did Salem Street with extended hours, starting at 7 and finishing by 4 every day, because we know the restaurants are most busy at dinner time and weekends. So, you know, if there are specific concerns that you have on a particular street, I'll leave my cards with the team, and you can email me. I work very closely with Nicole on a lot of projects in the North End, so we communicate very effectively. She's very responsive. That's one thing I really like about Nicole. If there's an issue, she gets right back to me, and I get right back to her. It's a two-way street, so that's how the commission works.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Very thorough. Any questions from the audience?
One simple question. Are you open 5 days a week?
Yes.
7 days a week?
Monday through Friday, we don't.
Monday through Friday.
Right, unless there's an emergency and something happens, we won't be out of business.
And
Yes,
we can post this onto lieutenantwarren.com.
Sure. And what we do have, we also have a website at the commission, pwsc.org. Not only does it will have this project, it has every project that we have scheduled citywide. So if you're interested in seeing the work that we do about $65 million worth of work every year. This project, the first phase is already at $5 million. I don't have a projected value for the next 2 phases because they aren't finished in design yet. But you know, we're taking our responsibility seriously and making sure that we maintain the system in the North End. Yes, ma'am.
Laura D'Amico, when you start your work, I'm assuming that the service will be shut down for the day or a period of time that you're there.
Well,
actively working?
No.
Okay.
Yep. Well, the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have a very large apartment building or a very large restaurant with a large volume of flow, the contractor will bypass your connection. If it's a relay, it's very easy for him to do that because it comes into his excavation. He has a pump and he can just pump it downstream. If it's the lining process, what we do with the lining process is we try to do it on the least busy day. So for a lot of restaurants, it's a Monday. You know, a lot of people have gone out all weekend and they don't open on Mondays, or they may delay their opening on Monday. So we'll try to coordinate as we go block to block with the street, what's the best day.
I'm mostly works residential.
Right. So if you are in a 3-decker, there's enough volume in your lateral to store the flow that you might use during the day. We ask you not to use your washing machine. We ask you not to use your dishwasher. Those are things you can schedule around us. Do it the day before, do it the day after. You know, you need to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. You know, so that'll all be explained in the notices.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll get back to you when we have more information and we can make a full presentation on the first phase.